Ladies, my fellow mommies, we are always so busy, on the go, kids screaming in the back seat, sleeping babies. I have the ultimate hack for you.
Welcome to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast with Krista and Tracy, your go-to girls for health, fitness, and keeping it real in mom life.
If you can't seem to get in a good groove with your nutrition and exercise program, this is for you.
We've coached thousands of women using macros for over 8 years, and I'm well known around here for my 5-day meal prep videos.
What does a macro balanced meal look like?
Hit subscribe to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast and join us for a fun, meaningful journey toward a healthier, happier you.
You got this, Mom.
Welcome to episode 3, From Kitchen to Viral, inside Krista's macro-friendly recipe creation. In this episode, we're going to talk about Krista's background in cooking, behind the scenes of recipe creation, how we balance convenience and nutrition, tips for successful meal prepping, most popular and requested recipes, adapting recipes for picky eaters or families, how to customize recipes for individual macro goals, and favorite ingredients and kitchen tools. Let's just start, Krista, with how did you develop this love for cooking?
Well, I always cooked with my mom in the kitchen. I don't necessarily remember cooking a lot of dinners, but I love to bake. I think that's what I started with, baking cookies. I'll never forget. I cooked cookies for 2 hours once, and I was over at the neighbors, and I remembered I was horrified. We ran back home across the street, and they were black. Anyway, I have some interesting cookie stories, making cookies in the bathroom with my cousin secretly.
I remember going over to your house. Actually, I'm just going to share this quick story. I have been bringing all of our meal prep bowls to the ball fields when our kids play flag football. I bring all of our meal prep bowls in their containers and I pass them out to all of the kids as we watch everybody play the game. There's this little boy there. He's basically drooling as we're eating these meal prep bowls. And I said, Grayson, do you want a meal prep bowl? He's like, no, I couldn't dare. And I'm like, buddy, it's fine. I'll make you, I have extra, whatever.
That's
and
so generous of you. I feel
well,
like typically I'm like, these are mine. I have exactly 5.
Well, I think that you would be happy to know, Krista, that I think about your family all the time because I went to your house for so many meals. Your family invited me over for all of these Sunday dinners, and I even can visualize your corner nook table that we sat at. I remember the baking, but I remember more your mom's hearty recipes.
Yes, we ate around the table as a family, not every night, but for sure every Sunday and multiple nights a week. We didn't go out to eat, which is funny because I remember sometimes being at your home and your mom calling and being like, Tracy, what would you like me to bring you home? And you were like, oh, I'm so sick of Subway or Taco Bell. And I was like, yes, get some Taco Bell. That's so funny.
Every time that little boy looks at us and is like, can I have a meal? I always just think of your family. I would be happy to pass it forward, be the mom that feeds other kids like your mom did to me.
Yeah, my mom taught me how to cook, and that's what I try to do with my kids. Just teach them the basics, how to boil pasta, how to fry an egg, all those little things. And you know what's funny is my oldest son, I didn't do a great job with teaching Brett at a young age. I started with Archer and McKenna, and only because we were living with my mother-in-law at the time, and she was very much like the kids in the kitchen. And so I kind of adapted that, but my 2 younger kids can do so much more than my older. He's getting better, but yeah, getting him in the kitchen at a young age, I think, so helpful. And then they love it.
Is Archer going to be this chef of a dad? Do you think he'll be the cooker in his family?
Probably. I hope all my kids, I hope even my oldest still probably can do more cooking than the average kid, for sure. I've had those conversations with them before. These are things you need to know how to do because you'll be living on your own one day, and I'm not going to be there to boil your pasta or make you some rice.
So I feel like I cook out of necessity. I cook because I have a big family and it is not my happy place. I am just not getting this joy like I know you are from cooking in itself. So tell me about that. Were you just always had that joy as a kid?
I don't know. I guess so. Yeah, I love it. My favorite days are just coming home. My kids are all at school. I'm home alone. I love that me time, putting on some music and just cooking. That's my perfect day. It's way more fun when I'm just cooking to prepare a meal for my family versus taking all the pictures and making sure I get all the videos, which is a lot of days of the week. But for sure, my happy place is just making dinner.
What would you say that your style of cooking is? Do you
Oh
have a
gosh.
style? My mom says this, Krista
Mhm.
needs to open the Stay Fit Mom restaurant. Like what kind
I
of meals would be at the Stay Fit Mom restaurant?
Oh gosh. Sometimes I worry that I do way too much Italian food, pastas, and I love Mexican food, all the tacos. I loved watching the Food Network. Chad and I, when we were first married, we watched it a lot, and that's kind of what helped us to start cooking. Chad used to cook a lot too when we were first married. But I feel like now I kind of compare myself to semi homemade. I think Sandra Lee was semi homemade. I think I do easy recipes. I'm not a chef. I didn't go to school to learn how to do all the things, but I could figure out the basics. And yeah, I feel like I'm very much like semi homemade. We're going to use a jar of pasta sauce with, this and that. We're just going to dump it in and call it dump lasagna.
I think you don't give yourself nearly as much credit. Yes, you're not culinary school educated, but in general, if you're cooking it, we all know that it's going to be good and you have a high standard. How many times do you have to redo a recipe because you're like, this is not what I had in mind?
I mean, I don't know that I'd say my standard is super high. I think there's a good balance of easy and good. It doesn't need to be some phenomenal meal. I don't like to cook with a million different ingredients. I want a good balance of ingredients and ease and the quality of it.
That's awesome. Behind the scenes of recipe creation is our first topic. So, how do you come up with these viral recipes? Let's just start with what inspires you to come up with recipes?
A lot of different things, going out to eat or being on vacation and having something new and different. Sometimes I'll see other recipes and I'll think to myself, oh, I can make that into a meal prep recipe. Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw your inspiration in action. You probably don't remember this, or maybe you do. I was in Las Vegas and we went out to eat. Gosh, I can't remember what the restaurant was called, but you came up with the Greek pita bowls
Yes.
after we ate there. What was the restaurant called?
Oh, it's in downtown Summerlin. I can't remember.
Greek
Crazy Pita, maybe?
something. Yeah, that's what it was, the Crazy Pita. So
Yeah.
we went to the Crazy Pita and we loved it, and then you made the Greek pita bowls a couple weeks later, and they were such a hit. That was one of our first
Yes, that was
first
the first mega viral recipe, meal prep recipe. I was just looking a few days ago, doing a little bit of research. That one got over 10 million views on TikTok, probably the most views out of anything. It was reshared by multiple accounts. So I'm sure it got well over 10 million views. But it's so funny. You never know what's going to go viral. I think that one went mega viral for a few reasons. A, because it was a great recipe. They're delicious. But B, I made a few mistakes in the video. Anytime you make a mistake, people love to tell you about it. When there were a couple in that one, I remember specifically, I didn't even show adding the pitas at the end. I don't know if you remember that. So people were like, why are these called Greek pita bowls? Or this isn't Greek. What makes this Greek? And the other big one was the tzatziki.
How do you say it? I say it's tzatziki sauce. That's wrong?
I don't even know what the correct way to say it is because even looking through all the comments, I made multiple. The next time I posted it, I said it a different way. I said that Ziki's the way I said it in the second video. But people will get on there. I'm Greek and we say it this way. No, I'm Greek and she's saying it correctly.
Play the pronunciation according to Google.
Tzatziki.
Tzatziki, is that how you said it the first time?
I don't remember, to be honest.
I think that really it went viral because it was such a good recipe, and then I think anytime you have so many eyes on something, that's when all mean comments come out. It's silly, but I feel like people were saying things like 2 olives. I remember that. All you get is 2 olives.
There were so many things in that one and the bay leaf.
Oh, and the rice, rinse your rice. Wasn't that one that
Yes.
too?
See, there were so many things
Yeah.
that people had to comment about.
That's one of my favorites to this day. I love the Greek pita bowls. So how do you go from a restaurant meal to I'm gonna make this macro friendly?
There's just a few things that I try to do, and that's boost the protein. Typically, when you go out to eat, they give you as little protein as possible because it's cheaper for them. So I can easily boost the protein by increasing the amount of meat in the recipe. And then I have some go-to swaps. Of course, Greek yogurt is always great in place of sour cream or heavy creams are in so many recipes.
Cottage cheese, right, is another
Cottage
one.
cheese, of course. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
another great one. And that's a popular one right now. Anything made with cottage cheese. Maybe we're at the end of the cottage cheese era.
I
Still going
love it.
strong.
Your cottage cheese Alfredo sauce. My kids don't know the difference between that and regular Alfredo sauce. It tastes the same to us.
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
so many things with cottage cheese.
What are some other things that you've made with
Dips,
cottage
like
cheese?
the buffalo chicken dip, all the sauces. I love using it in egg salads or chicken salads. It's just an easy way to boost the protein. So many people hate the texture of cottage cheese, but just blend up your cottage cheese first before putting it in your egg salad, but the texture for me is not an issue.
So for people that just want to know why cottage cheese is such a great swap, it's because it's got 13 grams of protein, 7.5 grams of carbs versus a sour cream or a heavy cream. It will have no protein and it'll be higher in fat.
Right.
So that's a great swap. Same with Greek yogurt.
Another way to make something more macro friendly is to use a leaner meat. If I have something and it's made with pork sausage, it's really easy to swap in turkey sausage. That's one of my favorite swaps is the turkey breakfast sausage from
Yeah.
Jenny. That's another thing I was going to say, keeping recipes easy. I do a lot of my shopping at neighborhood Walmart. Not just because it's easy for me, but because I know they're everywhere. And if I can find something at my neighborhood Walmart for a recipe, then most likely people can find it at their local grocery store versus fancy Sprouts or Whole Foods.
I appreciate that as a mom of 6 kids. I am not shopping at Whole Foods. I'm just
Right.
not. And
Well,
so
and as a budgeter, right? That's
as
so
a budgeter, and also you just can't beat the convenience of grocery delivery to your doorstep. So that's really why Walmart has sold me now is that it's free grocery delivery.
I love grocery shopping, which is probably not a surprise. I've thought about doing grocery delivery so many times, and then I'm like, I can't. I love to go through the grocery store, which I should have mentioned earlier as inspiration. Sometimes I'll just see something in the grocery store that I want to try, and that'll kind of help inspire me to do something new.
Awesome. Okay, so let's discuss how you balance making recipes easy to prep for busy moms.
I mean, specifically meal prep. I love the bowls because while you still have to clean all the individual bowls after you have your meal, it's nice because you're not using a whole bunch of different mixing bowls to make the recipe and then dumping it into a casserole dish, scooping it out to put in your meal prep containers. I like to do a lot of my recipes just all in those 5 bowls. So I don't have to use mixing bowls, but I think the majority of my recipes that do really well that people love are ones that are all just made in the bowls because it's quick and easy, less dishes, less cleanup.
Love that. So we probably should mention the fact that we have how many cookbooks do we have now?
We have 5 cookbooks, 2 meal prep cookbooks, and those are by far our best sellers.
We actually have 6, Krista, because we have
Yeah.
a gluten-free one. What are they all named?
Favorite recipes, home cooked meals, easy macro meals, and then there's meal prep 1, meal prep volume 2, and the gluten-free favorites, which
Awesome.
gluten-free favorites is repeats from 1 through 3, just all the gluten-free best recipes.
If some of the recipes from meal prep 2, you did the batch cooking where you were like, make all of this meat and then you can apply it to several recipes. That's just another simple tip for
Mhm.
meal prep in general.
Right. The reason I did that is I wanted to provide some easy meat recipes that you could use however you wanted throughout the week. And then I wanted you to have the option of using them in some of the meal prep.
We also have monthly macro meals. And I get a lot of my cooking inspiration from monthly macro meals. I'll just peruse my phone and look through them, and I'll do my own creation of the shredded pork with mac and cheese with a vegetable or something. Any practical tips on how to make meal prep even more efficient and enjoyable? And then strategies for staying consistent with it.
The biggest thing is picking recipes that you enjoy. I know I wouldn't be consistent with my meal prep if I hated what I was eating. I wouldn't want to make it. I wouldn't want to eat it. So I think just preparing, kind of like you said, you always do, you sit down, you decide what you're going to make for the week. And then creating your grocery list based off of that makes all the difference. It saves you time, it'll save you money. You're cooking things that you enjoy.
The other tip I was thinking is the routine of it, where you have a set day where you're going to sit down and do XYZ on this day. And that
Mhm.
makes me think of Coach Heather. Coach Heather works full time as a teacher and
Right.
she'll have so much food prepped on
Mhm.
Sunday. And she's done it for years. I'm so inspired by.
Yeah. Well, when Chad and I both were teachers, Sunday was meal prep day. That's why I usually post meal prep recipes every Sunday because I know everybody's in the kitchen, everybody's looking for ideas. They just always do really well on Sundays because everybody's prepping for the work week.
Let's talk about most popular and requested recipes. What's the most popular recipes that we have?
Well, we already talked about the Greek pita bowls. The very first glass bowl meal prep to go mega viral was not long after the Greek pita bowls was the chicken pesto bakes. A lot of people reposted it, shared it to their accounts. Who knows how many millions of people it went out to. Chicken pot pie, pancake bowls, dump lasagna. Those were some of the first ones I shared on TikTok and Instagram. And I looked, and my first meal prep video I did in January of 2021 in the little bowls. That was the single serve enchiladas. What's funny is I'd been making them that way for years. Never really thought much of it. I actually posted on Instagram when I first started my account just a picture of them coming out of the oven. My first meal prep bowls, I still have them today. I'm pretty sure I was gifted them for my wedding. And I just thought to myself, like, what do I do with these? I wasn't using them to store food. I don't know what I was thinking. I just had them packed away in my cupboards with the casserole dishes. And one day I was like, I could bake these. They're just like my glass casserole dishes. And so I did the single serve enchiladas. I was like, these will be nice. I know exactly what the macros are. I know exactly how many tortillas are in there. And I just stacked them up.
Who
Yeah,
gave you that gift? Do you remember?
I don't know.
We need to send them a thank you card.
I wish I knew.
That's so funny.
So the meal prep glass bowls started going viral in early 2021, not too long after we joined TikTok in 2020. And the first meal prep cookbook came out in March of 2022.
And then volume 2 came out in 2023.
Yes. So we are due. We're due
Around.
for volume 3.
Chris keeps saying, when's Krista gonna whip up
I
volume 3?
know.
We have so many emails that come through. That's when you know you've just done something so well, because people email and say, I have every single recipe that Krista's ever created. When is she gonna do meal prep 3?
It's hard, right? Because we've talked about doing another family style cookbook. We have so many recipes at this point. We can easily put together a family style cookbook. But the meal prep cookbooks just do so well. It's hard to not do another one of those. For sure, there will be a third. There is no date. I haven't officially started. I told myself after I did the second one, I was like, I can't do a cookbook every year. This is exhausting.
That's
So
a
I
lot.
took a little bit of a break for sure, but we've been so busy with the house and so many changes in the business this last year. I feel like once we're moved in, I have a new kitchen space. I'm going to be ready to hit the ground running. I just know myself. So I'm sure it'll be 2025.
Tell us about, what does the process look like to put a cookbook into production? What are the steps?
With each cookbook, I've gotten more efficient with it. What I did with the last cookbook is I sat down and I made a table of contents. What do I want to make sure to include? I want to have plenty of chicken bake recipes and plenty of recipes made with ground beef and different kinds of meat. I want to have breakfast recipes. I want all the different categories. That makes it so much easier versus just kind of winging it and then just making the recipes, testing them out, taking all the pictures, writing them down. I love coming up with recipes. I love videoing and editing videos, but my least favorite thing is writing down the recipe and writing the instructions. I hate that part, but it's not something I can have somebody else do. I'm not great at it. I remember at one point somebody was like, this isn't professionally written. I could make this better. And I went to Katie, the gal that helps me keep my cookbooks organized and hyperlinks all the table of contents. And she was like, that's what people love about you. They know your language in the cookbooks already. We're not going to go changing it now. And I was like, you know what? She's right. She's like, my dad was a professional editor. Don't let this person get in your head. Anyway, so I try to just be true to myself when writing these recipes. Like we said earlier, I didn't go to culinary school. I try to think about it like if I was telling Tracy how to make this recipe, I don't want to forget anything. I don't want to forget to tell you to microwave those corn tortillas. Was it you?
Yes. I mean, all the things, but it's funny because Krista will make the cookbook, and then the amount of people that proofread the cookbook is pretty extensive. It's a long list of people. It's not just me. Everyone on the Stay Fit Mom staff will look through it, and we will think there's no way anything has gotten past all of us. And then sure enough, even to this day, we'll have people email, oh, you forgot to put cup behind 1/3 or whatever, little things like that. And it does kind of drive me nuts because I'm one of the editor and I'm like, gosh, how did I miss that?
Yeah. And well, what's so tricky about our cookbooks too is we're not just writing a recipe, we're also calculating the macros. And that's such an important part. And that's what kills me. If I made a screw up, I mean, there hasn't been very many of those. I probably can't even count them all on one hand, but that kind of eats away at me more so than forgetting the cup or listing an ingredient twice. But I think people understand that. I think they know we're self-published and we're just trying to help moms out there. hit their macros and make some good food for their families. So luckily, everybody's been very nice about it over the years.
Awesome. So, did you want to talk about monthly macro meals really quick? Because I feel like we haven't really talked much about that.
For a few years there, I was providing a recipe a week for our clients just in our private group. And Tracy, you were making a monthly calendar for everybody. You were like, I need it, so I'm just doing it. So you were providing that for our Ninja Insiders. And then I was like, why don't we just make this available to everyone? Because your monthly calendar was just what recipes you wanted to make. You weren't providing the recipes. I was like, what if we just put all these things together and every month we give them the calendar with 20 recipes. We give them the actual recipes. They come from cookbooks. They come from our exclusive archives, which is just a bunch of recipes I've created over the years for our clients that aren't anywhere. Some come from the website, and then 4 brand new ones each month. So that's what Monthly Macro Meals is. It's available to all of our clients. It's included. And then you can also just subscribe to Monthly Macro Meals if you're tracking macros on your own and you want recipes to cook with all month long, every month. This has a grocery list, has, like I said, a little calendar. You can add in your own recipes you love from past months, family recipes, whatever. Just helps keep you organized.
My favorite thing about it is it literally feels like you get a new cookbook in your inbox every month. And I remember when we first put it out, we give monthly macro meals to our coaches. And I remember Coach Leanne calling me and she's like, I feel really guilty for getting this for free because it is so amazing. It's just so beautiful. You're like, Leanne, you work really hard for us. We are happy to provide this service for you, but it just is beautifully done.
So every month you get 12 to 14 dinner recipes. You get 2 to 4 side dishes, sometimes appetizers or treats, and then 2 meal prep recipes every month. And by the way, we didn't mention all prior monthly macro meals, like the individual months, those are always for sale on the website. And the table of contents is listed for each one. So if a cookbook isn't in the budget or you just want to snag 20 recipes for $14.99, you can look through the different months and just purchase the individual months and you get a little mini cookbook.
Love monthly macro meals. It's definitely been a game changer for our family. Okay, so next question is about adapting recipes for picky eaters or families. So we kind of talked about our kids right at the beginning, but I feel like my kids eat so well. We have had to dial things in because I cannot be a short order cook with 6 children. But most of the time, they'll say, what's for dinner? And I'll say, whatever, peanut butter bacon burgers. And they're like, yes. Almost every time, yes, and I just feel like I am doing it. I'm doing my job as a mom. Anyway, so how do you handle that? Picky eaters.
My boys are the same way as all your 6 kids. My boys are at the age where they will just eat anything I put in front of them. They're in sports now. They're just hungry. They're growing. They're teenagers. McKenna is still really tricky. She's only 8. She's by far my worst eater. I make a lot of traditional recipes. I like lasagnas, spaghetti, hamburgers, mac and cheese, which I think is more appealing to kids for sure. I don't sneak in all the veggies to all my recipes. McKenna finds a little vegetable she doesn't like in something. She's freaking out and doesn't want to eat it. But believe it or not, one thing that does, I don't hate to say drives me crazy, but anytime I include a particular vegetable in a meal prep recipe that I share online, it's always like, oh, I hate Brussels sprouts. What can I sub for this? What can I sub for that? I do put vegetables in them, but a lot of the meal prep recipes, you can easily just steam some vegetables and throw them in at the end, right? Whatever you like, broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, whatever.
I remember having that conversation in the coaches chat. You had brought that up. Do I include the veggies? Do I not include the veggies? Every time I include the veggies, people complain. But my answer was, please include the veggies, Krista, because I just look at the recipe and put that order into the grocery cart, and I will forget to order veggies at all unless it's in the recipe. So
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I always have a battle in my mind about before creating a recipe is, do I include the veggies in this one or do I just let them add what they want? If it's something that I feel like just goes so well with the recipe, like you're gonna pair broccoli with the baked potato, I will just include it. But a lot of them, like the ravioli bake, that was a really popular one. I originally made it. I put asparagus on top and grilled chicken. I filmed it. I photographed it. It was great. But I thought, oh, a lot of people hate asparagus. So I refilmed it all without the protein or the asparagus. And I just put it out there as ravioli bake. And I said, top it with your favorite protein, grilled chicken, meatballs, whatever, and your favorite vegetable. And it worked out really well. So there's pros and cons to adding in all the veggies or not. But for sure, my kids only like certain veggies. So I don't like to get too crazy with all the vegetables in my recipes.
So the next question is, how do you customize recipes for individual macro goals? One of the emails that we get is they want these recipes to be tailored to their macro needs. So can you answer that, Krista? How are your recipes tailorable to their macro needs?
Well, it's pretty simple. With the meal prep bowls, you can plan them into your day. You can start your day by just putting in the whole bowl for lunch or dinner, whatever it is, and just plan your other meals around it and snacks. With the family style recipes, what's so great is in both MyFitnessPal and Macros First, you can change the serving size. Instead of logging the recommended 250 grams of soup, you can change it to 350 grams if you need more, or you can have less and only have 150 grams, whatever will fit nicely into your macro budget. That's what I do love about the family style recipes. I feel like those are much easier to manipulate and fit into your macro budget for the day. But the bowls are nice. We typically have those for one meal a day and then the family style meal when we're home at dinner or for breakfast or whatever.
I feel like the meal prep bowls make it so easy for me to hit my macros. If I'm eating one meal prep bowl a day, I am for sure going to hit my macros because they're so high in protein. They offset my protein count for the whole day and it makes eating so easy.
My goal was to keep all the main dishes, dinners, and lunch recipes all around 500 calories. Well, not to exceed 500, I should say 400 to 500 calories. And then really 35 to 50 grams of protein, I feel like is great for a meal. Sometimes it's a little less for breakfast, pancakes and things. I do get the message, do you have any low carb meals? And I'm like, well, I have some, but it's not like something I set out to create when I'm creating a recipe. I try to make it balanced because I know all the women in our program and I know someone who's tracking their macros. Typically, you just want to balance them out and you're not necessarily eating low carb or super low fat. So I try to create a good balance. Fat in my recipes, I feel like varies quite a bit. Some recipes are super low in fat and some are higher. And sometimes it's not worth it to make a meal super low fat and kill the recipe. Some things are meant to be higher in fat and enjoyed, and they're worth fitting into your day.
I feel like you're good at figuring that out, what's worth it and what's not worth it. And then I also remember you doing one reel lately that was how to beef up your meal prep bowl, how to increase it. You did that for Chad, right? Chad
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
more calories. What did you do for that?
I was just saying a lot of like the chicken bakes that are rice and chicken or orzo. I usually do about 3 tablespoons of uncooked, which comes out to 30 to 35 carbs, which I feel like is pretty decent. It's a good middle ground, but most men, that's not going to be enough. So yeah, I made a reel about you can easily increase the protein or double the rice or the orzo and the chicken bakes, load in all the veggies. It's so much easier to add to the meal prep bowls, keeping them a little bit lower in calories than it is to take away. If you add it to your food diary, it's easy to add another 3 tablespoons of rice or chicken or whatever. But if you're adding it to your food diary and the macros are already in there, you can't really take away. You can't split the rice and subtract 3 tablespoons of rice. You can easily adapt it for someone who needs more calories.
While we're on this subject of rice, should we talk about the rice? Because that's the most asked question, isn't it? Like a lot of the meal prep bowls have rice. And when you make it in your oven in Las Vegas, it's cooked to perfection. And yet that's not necessarily the case where your oven is. So go ahead and give them some strategies for that, Kristen.
What's funny is I don't think that it's necessarily where I am. I think environment plays a role. I don't know. I have not cracked the code. I don't know why it works perfectly for me. But my sister, who lives a mile from me right now, she cannot get her rice to cook in her little bowls. She has to put them in a bigger. She puts 3 in a 8x8 and it cooks perfectly. I'm like, that is so weird. I don't know why. But there are some tips. Whenever I share a recipe on the website now, I always include rice troubleshooting tips. I polled our Ninja Insiders and asked what works for you. And the most common one was to soak your rice for an hour or 2 before cooking, or using pre-cooked rice. Minute rice, of course, you can buy that that at the grocery store. Or I always tell people you can take out the rice, take out the broth, whatever I added in there that's really liquidy, and then cook your rice separately, bake your chicken or whatever it is, and then add the rice in at the end.
Great tips. And while we're on the subject of kitchen tools like a rice maker, what other kitchen tools are your must-haves?
Okay, I wrote these down because I knew you were going to ask me. I don't have a lot. Let's start with kitchen gadgets. The things I use most are my meat masher, the $10 Walmart tool or Amazon. I'm sure we could link it on Amazon. Do you have one of those?
Is that for the ground beef?
Yes, turkey, whatever.
Yes, I have one. I use it.
Mashes it up really good. And the other one I use all the time is my Danish dough hook. You don't have one of those, do you?
I don't, but do I need one?
Get you one for Christmas. I love it. I originally got it for making bread, but I use it all the time for so many things because you know what's great about it is your typical mixer used for pancakes or whatever. Everything gets stuck inside.
And if you don't rinse it in time, you're screwed.
So the Danish dough hook is great. You do have to hand wash. It's worth it. I use it all the time for all different things. And then some of the little gadgets. I have 2 gadgets. One is a new one I have to tell you about. So my veggie chopper, of course, I use that. I probably use it maybe once a week. If I'm meal prepping, it's great. If I'm doing something with a lot of veggies, I love the perfectly uniform little vegetables. Just something about that is way more appetizing to me too. And I just have the 4-blade one. You don't need the one that comes with 20 different attachments. And I don't know who would want to store that. And then I finally bought a cheese grater, the one you spin the little. Do you have one of those?
No.
I shared a video the other day where I was using the traditional cheese grater and I nicked my hand. And people are telling me, put the cheese grater down and grate from the top. I didn't like that. That still didn't work for me. So a few people said, you need to buy this cheese grater. You would just stick the cheese in the top and you turn the wheel. I need to share it on Instagram. So that's been great. I've used it twice and I'm like, this is amazing.
There's one gadget that you have not yet mentioned.
What?
The meat thermometer.
Yeah, I feel like everyone should have a meat thermometer, right? If you don't, for sure, you need to grab one. You don't need anything fancy. The one I use the most, we have several. We have the fancy ones, the wireless ones that you stick in the meat. I don't use that thing. I use my $20 Walmart thermometer. It sticks in and the cord can come out of the oven or the grill, whatever. And then you can take around the house the little screen and it beeps when it hits temperature. And it makes it so easy. You're not going to overcook your chicken and have dry chicken. To me, a meat thermometer is a no-brainer and everybody should have one.
So we'll be sure to link all these things in the show notes for you guys. Okay, now let's move on to the big appliances.
I rank my Instant Pot number 1. I don't know if that would surprise people. It's not necessarily my most used appliance. Our air fryer is probably used more, but I couldn't live without my Instant Pot. Making shredded meat or a soup or something, starting with frozen chicken breasts and having a meal done in an hour to me is life-changing. I started using it back when I was still teaching and macro coaching, and I was so busy. I would come home, pick up groceries on the way home, pull into Walmart, and go home, and I could make dinner, and we could have it ready in an hour. I love my Instant Pot. We use it a lot. And then, of course, my air fryer.
What do you cook most in your air fryer?
Reheating a lot of things. The chicken chunks from Costco. My family loves those.
Love how you mentioned reheating, because if you reheat chicken in the air fryer, just cut up cooked chicken. It's so much better than if you put it in the microwave. Worth it right there.
I love cooking chicken thighs in the air fryer. They turn out great.
From
Raw. Yes.
Really?
You season it, throw them in there. It's really good.
Never tried that.
Make sure you've got a good tray in there because a lot of that fat will drip. You don't want to start a fire. But yeah, hamburgers, any frozen food from the freezer, I feel like is just 10 times better when you throw it in the air fryer.
I feel like most people have a crock pot. Is that still on
Right.
your list?
Yes, I still love the crock pot. I think it makes the best shredded chicken and soups and things like that slow cook. I like to do my spaghetti in a long slow cook, but I use my Instant Pot and just use the slow cook setting quite a bit because it's a lot bigger than my crock pot. I love my 8-quart Instant Pot. What size is yours?
I think it's the same.
I remember thinking it was huge, but my sister has a 10 and that thing is huge. But yeah, I feel like 8-quart is plenty big for anyone with a family who's cooking for 5+ people. I love my Ninja Creamy. I don't think that's a must have. You can get away with a blender, but I'm a big ice cream gal.
Everyone says the creamy is just so good.
And you don't have one of those, right?
I don't, because the individual serving size panics me. We have too many people.
The deluxe one, it makes more. It would serve more people. It's so loud. And McKenna loves to make them. She makes them quite a bit. Chad's on a kick. He's been having them a lot. But every night it's going once or twice. And it's louder than the blender.
Louder than the blender?
I didn't know when we bought it that it was going to be
How long does it blend like that for?
a couple minutes. But if you're watching TV and it's right there, you got to pause the TV. That's how loud it is.
How
But
interesting.
worth it, I think. And I've had to replace mine twice because it broke free of charge. They sent me a new one. They've been great. But I still think it's worth it. Even if I would have had to buy it again, I think it would be worth the $150 because the consistency is so good.
That's so interesting. Maybe I'll invest. This is how it always works. Krista has something for years and years, and I'm like, ugh, I just don't need that. I don't need that. Finally, I go get it, and I'm like, why did I wait so long for this?
I don't have counter space in this kitchen. And I was like, where are we going to put this? I need it. But we got rid of the ice maker. We had one of those $100 ones. But to me, it was worth not having the ice to have the Ninja Creamy, the egg cooker. I love that thing. Just for
Yeah.
quick hard boiled eggs. You don't even have to think about it. You just stick them in there. It's only $15 to $20 on Amazon. You can do 7 eggs at a time. You dump in water. There's a little cup. You put it to hard boiled or soft boiled. And turn it on. It'll beep when they're done. And they peel so easily. People tell me all the time, but you can do them in the air fryer. You can do them in the Instant Pot. I'm like, I don't want to clean my whole Instant Pot just to hard boil a few eggs. So I love that thing. The rice cooker, those are great too. Mine actually broke 6 months ago or so. And I've just been making it over the stove the old fashioned way. And it's been fine. But I do think rice cookers are great. If you're doing a lot of meal prep and stuff, it's easy. You just click the button and it cooks the rice for you to perfection. You don't have to think about it.
I have a confession to make. I don't even know how to make rice over the stove.
I had to Google it. If I don't know how to do something, I Google it. Now I know. You just rinse your rice, you put it in there with your usual 1-to-2 ratio of rice to water, bring it to a boil, and then reduce heat all the way down to low, put the lid on, 10 to 15 minutes. I
Huh.
check at 10. If they're still liquid, another 5 minutes. And it's easy. But if you forget about it, it keeps cooking, you burn the bottom versus a rice cooker that shuts off. So yeah, I'll probably invest in another rice cooker when we have more kitchen space.
Okay. Any other kitchen disasters that you want to share? You think of anything gone wrong?
I typically do all of my filming of recipes and things when my kids are at school and nobody's home. It's just me. But sometimes my schedule gets messed up and I'm rushing to get things done. And my family came home. They all want to be in the kitchen to see what I'm doing, of course. And I was like, I just got to take pictures of this meal before we can eat it. And I had the camera and I was like, everybody out of the kitchen. I'm just taking pictures. I have this little coffee table I put in front of the window for natural light. I was like, babe, your mitt is on fire. I had just put it too close to the burner. I had something else cooking, pasta water or something, and it was just on fire. And I have a big old burn. I finally bought new mitts, but I had a big old burn hole in my mitts I was using. One time our Traeger caught on fire.
Within 3 months, our Traeger has caught on fire. It's right up against the house.
Oh, yeah. Move that thing. Ours is too. I goofed. It was my fault. It wasn't heating the pellets right, and I shut it off and then started it again. It was a rookie mistake, but I feel like everybody's got a Traeger story of their Traeger lighting on fire. It was scary. Luckily, Chad was home and he grabbed a big bucket and let the pellets all drain out so it couldn't burn anything anymore.
We have a fire extinguisher in our house, thankfully.
you?
Now. We had to when we were going through the adoption process, have to have one on each door. I've never been so glad.
And you know how to use it? Is it like,
Yeah, Chris has used it on the
you know what I do want in my kitchen that I didn't figure this out? I vacuum in my kitchen all the time. Like countertops, is that normal? Do you get your vacuum out? I was telling Chad the other day, I think I screwed up. We should have figured out a vacuum here in the kitchen. It'll be fine, but
Do you think your new countertops will require that?
I think I used to do it at the old house. You know, the back corner where the
Yes.
up against the backsplash.
Yes.
Just the crumbs and things drive me crazy. I gotta vacuum them and then I spray them.
Well, that concludes the episode for today. Next episode is going to be Let's Get Personal. We're going to talk about what's going on in our lives.
I mean, it sounds fun. When you said let's get personal, I got a little nervous.
We're going to talk about life transitions and turns. That's next episode. But thanks for tuning in. We are going to link everything we talked about in the show notes. Happy cooking.
Bye.
We appreciate you tuning in to the Stay Fit Mom podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media and head to stayfitmom.com for more resources and tips. You've got this. See you next time.